Hi guys, today we're going to revise the topic of punctuation. Okay, now what's punctuation? Actually, it's just the way to write the way that we speak. Okay, when we speak, we use our voice, we use our breathing, we use our body language, our hands to make the pauses, to emphasize certain words, to make our message much more interesting to the person who's listening to us, okay? However, when we're writing, we don't have exactly those tools, those elements. We don't have our voice, we don't have our, like the pauses that we make when we're breathing. We cannot raise the voice, we cannot decrease the voice, you cannot make the inflection like at the end of a question, like, how are you? That little thing, we don't have it when we write it, because obviously it is not our body, okay? But when we write, we have punctuation to substitute all that, to make the pauses, to make the inflections, to make the suspense, to make the interesting things, okay? So I would like to start with a part of the big picture, okay? The big picture is the whole idea that you want to transmit. And when you're speaking, even if you don't notice that, you transmit a lot of different sentences and each one of those sentences contain one idea. Probably the ideas are connected, yes, of course, but you start with something and then you finish, then you start with another thing and then you finish, then you start with another thing and then you finish, okay? And I would like you to start with that big picture, okay? With those ideas. Because when you're writing, you divide them in 4 types of sentences. You have the declarative sentences, which are the opinion statement sentences, where you can say, like, I think that board games are much more interesting than video games. That's an opinion. And a statement could be like, okay, I'm a teacher, or I like cycling. Those are statements as well. Interrogative, well, questions, super easy. Imperative, when you're going to communicate commands or requests, like close the door, do the dishes, okay? And exclamatory, that's especially used when you want to transmit emotions, really strong emotions, like anger, happiness, surprise, okay? Excitement, yay, okay? That's when you use the part of exclamatory sentences. Now, why the punctuation? Here, I'm going to start with full stop, because actually full stop is a punctuation mark that I use for the declarative sentences, okay? For them, I need to start the sentence with the capital letters and I need to finish that sentence with a full stop, okay? That's the rule. You start with a capital, you finish it with a full stop or period, however you know it, okay? So that's a rule. You start an idea like that, you finish that idea with a full stop, okay? Again, some examples. She is a student. You have here the capital S and then you have the full stop at the end. Then you have longer sentence probably. She likes eating healthy food such as apples, grapes, quinoa, etc. And as you notice, I'm making pauses in the commas and I have this kind of introduction, like something is going to come with the part of the colon. But you can notice that I also have the capital S for she, started my sentence, and at the end, I'm using the full stop to finish my sentence. Now, another thing that you can see here is another use of a full stop, is when I use abbreviations. ETC is the abbreviation of etc., okay, and we all know it. But when we use it, we use a full stop at the end of that abbreviation. Here, as you can notice, I'm not using 2 full stops. I'm not using one for the abbreviation and another for the sentence. And that's kind of the way that we use them. That's the logical way. If you finish with that, well, that full stop is fulfilling 2 uses. The one of the abbreviation and the one of the sentence, like closing the abbreviation and closing the sentence. You can also see it here when I use a part of, also known as period in American English. So am for American, ENG for English. So yes, you can use the full stops for abbreviations, okay? The thing is that you cannot use full stops with acronyms. Acronyms is when you have these, letters that stand for a longer name, such as NASA, DNA, COVID, okay? They stand for longer names and they have, been created like that. So everybody knows them as with those reduced names. Now, before moving to another punctuation mark, I would like to point out this other one that I have here. These 3 dots, which are 3 full stops together, I'm going to call them ellipses. An ellipsis, probably as you already know, is used in 2 different ways. The first one is when you omit a part of a quote, for example, or in this case, a list. Instead of writing the whole alphabet, I just omitted a part of it with the ellipsis. And the other one is that when you're writing in an informal way, you can create this suspense of something I'm going to tell you, just creating this pause that you could also say or use when you're speaking by using the ellipsis. Now, for my second set of sentences, the interrogative sentences, I obviously need the question mark at the end. It closes any direct question, okay? And it is a question, well, the question mark is just a point on its own, okay? So as you can see, we never use a comma nor a full stop after a question mark, because a question mark is already giving you that inflection of the question, is already giving you that pause that a comma or a full stop could give you, okay? So whether it's in the middle of your sentence or at the end of the sentence, you do not use a comma nor a full stop after them. Now, of course, you can use the question mark with any kind of questions, like yes, no questions, like do you like banana ice cream? Or with WH questions, what, where, who, why, when, how, and then the rest of the question. And obviously, you need to close it. Now, something really important here in English, you just close the question. You never open it as we do in Spanish, okay? In English, well, you open the question actually with the WH question and then you close it with the question mark, okay? Or in the yes, no questions, you open it with the auxiliary and then you close it with a question mark. Now, something tricky sometimes, okay? And it's just kind of the deception thing, okay? When you have the title of a book, and specifically just the title of a book, and the title of a book is, has a question mark, then this rule about the commas don't apply because it's part of the title, okay? It is not a question that you're making. It is part of a title of something. And also, when you're asking a question with that title, like, do you like, is he living or is he dead? So the name of the book is he living or is he dead, okay? So if you're asking a question with that and at the end you have a question mark, you do not double question mark as well as you don't do double full stops, okay? Kind of logical, but worth to mention. Next one, for the exclamatory sentences. So you need the exclamation mark, okay? And here, as well as with the question mark, no comma nor full stop after it is exactly stuff. It's a mark, a point that you're actually making there to emphasize an emotion, but also is making the pause that you require to divide that idea from the others, okay? And you use it for emotions or surprise, or to the part of emphasis and commands, okay? And, well, little special things about the exclamation marks is that after some abbreviations like AM, you can use the exclamation mark after that point, okay? Still using the title of that book, like, is he living or is he dead? Like, oh, I can't stand. And then you say the name of the book. And if it contains a question mark, it doesn't matter. You can use an exclamation mark. And also after this direct speech thing, when you repeat the words of another person, like, well, they told us to keep calm, okay? So you can actually use the exclamation mark after the quotation marks. Just little things there. Okay, so that was the big picture, like how to start a sentence and how to finish a sentence. Now let's go to the small picture, something that happens inside your sentence. And before moving on to the part of punctuation, I would like just to clarify 2 differences here, okay, of the things that we normally use within the sentences. First of all, we have something that is called independent clauses, and the other thing is dependent clauses. And I think they are quite logical from the names. Independent, totally independent, is a complete thought on its own. It stands alone. It actually communicates the full idea, straightforward, probably short, but the full idea there. It has a subject, it has a verb, and it could be used as a sentence, okay? Like, my cat is a tabby, I love cycling. I don't need to add anything more. I'm saying the full idea that I want to communicate there. And that would be an independent clause. On the other hand, I also have dependent clauses, and its name, as the name says, okay, is dependent. It depends on another thing to be complete. So obviously, these kind of clauses are incomplete, okay? They do not convey the complete message. It's like, and then what? Okay, so if you listen to one of these clauses just like that, it's like, and then, no, like, what else? You're going to have that need to ask for more information, okay? They also have a subject and a verb, and you can also identify them because they normally are with conjunctions and prepositions, because obviously they are incomplete because they need to link to another clause, okay? For example, although I like it. Although I like it, what? No, what happened next? Like, yeah, well, you like it, but then what happened, okay? Or before I went there, like before I went to that restaurant, or before I went to watch that movie, yes, before of that, what did you do? Okay, so you need that complementary idea. And now, those are the clauses. How to make the sentences. So when I put two independent clauses together, I have one full sentence that is called a compound sentence, but okay, it's a full sentence, okay? For example, I have here one idea, complete idea. I think you'd enjoy the party. That's it. And I also have another idea. I don't mind if you stay home. So those are two complete different, complete ideas. But if I put them together because I want to link them, because my whole sentence, my whole idea, my whole thought is that, like, I think you'd enjoy the party, but I don't mind if you stay. So if you decide to stay, I don't mind, okay? And that's my whole idea. Yes, I think that you will enjoy, but if you stay, it's okay, it's fine, okay? That would be my compound sentence. Now, I can also do something similar with the dependent clauses, but with dependent clauses, I need to mix a dependent clause with an independent clause. That's why the link there, okay? Now, I have, for example, because it was raining. Cool. Because it was raining what? Okay, what happened? So that's why I need a full, complete idea. The match was cancelled, okay? And then I just link them, okay? The match was cancelled because it was raining. Too sad, postponed, okay? And with that, I can create something that we call complex sentences. And all this explanation, all this background, because there is, well, therein is the importance of the use of the comma, the colon, and the semicolon to separate these independent clauses, or to separate these dependent clauses, to make that pause, to breathe, to actually, make the connection in a natural way. So now, yes, the colon. Okay. So the colon, it gives this silent, mute impression of as follows, or which is, or which are, okay? If you can actually use that in your sentence, is because you can use a colon, okay? Now, the most normal way to use a colon is with lists, okay? So there are different kinds of food you can buy in a supermarket: dairy, fruit, vegetable, etc. So in this case, the colon is actually substituting the which are. For example, there are different kinds of food you can buy in a supermarket, which are the following: dairy, fruit, vegetables, etc. Okay, that's when you use the colon. Now, you can also use a colon to give some further clarification. So again, it's just listing something, but in a different way. We can do this shopping in two places. Full idea there. But I mentioned in two places, and if I want to clarify a little bit more, I can say which are, that's why the colon, in an organic market near my house, or in the supermarket on the other side of town. So I'm clarifying which 2 points are, okay? But remember, that colon that is there between places and in an organic market could be substituted with which are, okay? And that's why I can use the colon. Then I can also use a colon to introduce quotations, okay? As she always said, and then the quotation, okay? It's like the quotation will follow. One cannot think well, laugh well, sleep well if one has not dined well, okay? And that's practically the use of colon. However, we just need to point out when not to use it. Actually, the colon cannot divide a sentence in many parts, and I'm going to explain a little bit further. So a colon should not separate a noun from its verb. For example, Jane gave, colon, flowers, a cake, and new perfume to Anna. So it's like if I were saying Jane gave, which are flowers, a cake, and a new perfume. So it doesn't sound correct, so I cannot use a colon there. Or this part about, I changed the order of the sentence. A colon should not separate a verb from its object or subject complement. So Jane gave, and then the complement of that verb is Anne and Rose. So Jane gave Anne and Rose. You don't use it there, okay? Even if they are two people, you don't use it there. You're not listing something. Then a colon should not separate a preposition from its object, like the receiver of that action, okay? Jane gave some flowers, a cake, and a new perfume to Anna and Rose, but the to is already giving you that post to whom, so you cannot separate it. And the last one, a colon should not separate a subject from its predicate. So you have my lovely best friend, or whatever, Jane, cannot separate there, which are, again? No, of course not. You need to link that subject with the verb. So be careful with that. Semicolon. Well, the semicolon is also tricky because it is a pause, but it's stronger than a comma, but weaker than a full stop. The full stop is actually telling you that I close the idea. The comma is like breathe in and continue linking something. And the semicolon, it's kind of breaking the idea, but not as a full stop. So again, it's stronger than a comma or weaker than a full stop. Examples. I have here two independent clauses. I order a cheeseburger for lunch, and then life's too short for counting calories. Okay, they are related, so that's when I use my colon. It links two related independent clauses, but they are related. They are talking about the same thing. They are in the same idea, okay? That's one of the uses. Another use of the semicolon, it deletes conjunctions, okay? So again, they have to be independent clauses. They need to be related. So I saw this skinny guy and he was eating a massive hamburger. So I can use a colon. I saw this skinny guy, colon, he was eating a massive hamburger. And finally, the last use of semicolon for serial list. I think this is one of the most common ones, okay? It's like when you're listing something, but in this case, you are speaking much more between, those, the aspects of the list. For example, and for dessert, I'll have a decaf coffee with a shot of almond milk, colon, a slice of strawberry cake with whipped cream and a scoop of vanilla ice on the side, colon, and a glass of water, please. Okay, so as you can see, the listing actually were full sentences within the colons, but the colon helps to divide that. The comma. Well, this has a lot of details, but we can start with the things that you shouldn't be doing, okay? So, we have something that is called the comma splice, which are exactly the mistakes that we make when using the commas. So we have, for example, the kitten was cute. I wanted to take it home with me. It is incorrect. Why? Because as we have already seen in the part of semicolon, you have two independent clauses. You have the kitten was cute. Fantastic. Full idea there. I wanted to take it home with me. Full idea there. So what you need to do here is first divide both sentences, capital, full stop, capital, full stop, just like the kitten was cute. I wanted to take it home with me. Just like that. Second option, link it with a conjunction, okay? The kitten was cute, so I wanted to take it home. And you use a comma because you have the conjunction. And then the last option, as we have already seen, the semicolon. The kitten was cute, I wanted to take it home with me, okay? And as you can see, you need to stop to make that impact on the separation of the sentence, okay? So that's, if you notice that you're doing that, notice that you have three options there to actually write your sentences correctly and not using a comma because they are independent clauses, both of them. So now, the other uses of a comma. To separate a list of similar words or phrases, such as it's important to write in clear, comma, simple, comma, accurate words. You know that, listing something, no more complicated. To separate words or phrases that mark where the voice would pause slightly, as I told you, the comma helps us to transfer that speaking way that we have towards the written way, okay? So I can tell you now, however, all will be revealed tomorrow at midday. So I need to say, make that suspense like, however, everything is going to be fine, okay? That's natural, okay? Yes, we learn how to do it. If you keep reading, you're going to get more of these normal pauses that we have when we're writing. Now, to separate the extra information in a sentence. For example, the ambulance which arrived after just 5 minutes took 3 people to the hospital. I'm just adding extra information, okay? I just could say the ambulance took 3 people to the hospital, but I wanted to say which arrived after just 5 minutes. I just wanted to include that extra information that is not exactly relevant, okay? So it's when we use commas. In the second option, well, the second example, to be honest, I thought they were very rude, okay? So the main idea that I want to communicate is that I thought they were very rude, okay? But probably I want just to be nicer before, like, to be honest, my opinion, okay? And then you send the thing that you want to send. To separate tags and yes, no answer, so no, comma, thank you. You don't say no, thank you. You say no, thank you. You're okay, aren't you? To separate that statement with the part of the question. You are okay, aren't you? Okay. With some discourse markers and interjections. Discourse markers. All these words that we use to connect our ideas. For example, in addition, on the one hand, on the other hand, to start with, first, secondly, okay? Those are discourse markers. And most of the times we use a comma because we're saying first, comma, then the idea, okay? An interjection. Wow, ouch, yay, okay, hi, okay, all of them are interjections. I need a comma to then continue with my idea. To indicate that the direct speech is following or has just occurred, that you're repeating the words of another person, or when you're reading something and they are having a dialogue. We need to leave now, he said, okay, so we need to do that pause. We need to leave now, he said, okay, that little pause, a comma. Finally, with the conjunctions, we have already seen this part in the part of semicolon, okay? So again, generally speaking, use a comma if it precedes an independent clause and you have a conjunction such as this one, okay? The pet store was fresh out of kitten toys, so I had to improvise. The kitten may be small, but it's feisty. The shelter had puppies, and I consider adopting one. So you're just adding this other information, okay? And that's why you need a comma, you have a conjunction. Notice, British English normally don't use a comma before and. That's extra information here. Then other symbols. We have other symbols that are not exactly related to this part of big picture, small picture of a sentence, these pauses that we need to make, but they obviously add certain, other characteristics when we're writing. We have the slash and the hyphen. The hyphen actually just practically used for the combined modifiers that would say 2 words together that are actually creating a new adjective, okay? An example probably here, and probably is not the best example ever, but it's like the he who must not be named, okay, might be recovering his powers. If you are Harry Potter fans, well, you have it. All that is a compound, okay, and that's when we use your hyphens. Now, in the part of slashes, it's also quite easy. You have, for example, to make these pauses or these separations for songs, for a poem, for a play. So that's when you use them, okay? You have the part of the or, okay, to indicate different options. So the teacher noticed that a student had left his or her backpack. So she doesn't know, or he doesn't know, the teacher, if the student was a he or a she. Okay, and also when you have, for example, these connecting conflicting relationships. So, my example, Mr. Moon worked in his room/office. So the room was the office was a room, probably inconvenient, but it was necessary. Then, in some abbreviations, not all the abbreviations are made with full stops. Some abbreviations are made with slashes, and one of the examples is AC, when you say air conditioning, okay? And finally, when you use it in dates and when you use it in fractions. So you already know that. And the last 2 ones is a part of quotation marks and parentheses. So the quotation marks, let's start with the quotation marks. Come on, where are my quotation marks? Okay, we use quotation marks with direct quotes. For example, John said, I really hate when it's hot outside, and that is a quotation mark because you're quoting something that another person said. With titles of certain works, well, we have already used it with the part of Mark Twain's book, the one of the question, but it could be just like Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone in quotation marks there. To imply alternate meanings. For example, this article was written by a professional writer. We can even change our voice when we're speaking, like professional writer, because you don't think that was a professional writer at all, okay? Now, and to write words as words, because they are not part of the sentence, okay? Like my last example, she told him bonjour, good day, when they met. So you're just including this part of, the explanation of the previous word, and it's not actually part of my sentence. In this case, you can use the double quotation marks or the single quotation marks as she told him bonjour, good day, when they met, okay? And another use, and the last thing of quotation marks, with the single quotation marks. When you have a quotation within a quotation, and that's my second example here. You have open quotation mark, the Dementor's keys, I close there, is my favorite chapter in the whole series, quotation mark, Tom said. So it's a quotation within a quotation. So it's inside, single, it's outside, double. Open, and close. Always close your quotations. Finally, parentheses. A remark added to a sentence, often to provide an explanation or extra information. And actually, I would say that it's more like about your opinion. For example, he finally answered, after taking 5 minutes to think, that he did not understand the question. Okay, so yes, of course, you can add extra information with the part of commas, with some hyphens now and then, okay, and with parentheses. But parentheses are normally for this kind of extra information, this extra comment that you want to place there, and probably is more personal comment. But that would be it, okay? So that's all. I really hope that it has been clearer now. See you guys.